Hey, folks, welcome again to the Next Iteration podcast. And we are today going to talk about the importance of investing in tech leadership in your organization. So, if you're a engineering director, principal engineer, a CTO kind of persona, or even someone from business, I think this is a very important topic for you to pay attention to. And do share what your experience is at the end of the video. So, the reason why we are talking about this topic is a lot of times when we have worked with clients or even in our own organization, we've seen some symptoms that sort of hint at inability to do stuff the way you would want to do it. And we've realized that these are actually symptoms of not having great tech leadership on the ground. um, and so we want to explore these symptoms, and the idea about no, the idea with today's episode is that if you spot any of these symptoms in your organization, then it is very likely that you have a gap in your tech leadership capabilities. So, Chirag, do you want to take us through the first symptom that we've seen with organizations?
Yeah, yeah. One of the symptoms to watch out for is how decision making seems difficult in the organization, and this can materialize in two ways. Especially at a team levels, decisions could either feel very slow and painful to make. And that's on one end because the tech leaders sort of unsure of uh, going ahead and making the decision themselves. They are waiting to involve a whole bunch of people and building
Hmm.
consensus and that takes a long time and becomes ends up being people getting caught into repetitive meetings, and that can delay things. So either decision making is found to be slow and cyclic, and so that's one symptom to watch out for. And at the other extreme, decisions could feel too rushed and focusing only on the short term outcomes. So you'll hear people like saying, let's just do this for now. For this iteration, this is going to be
Right.
good enough. So let's proceed. Let's not worry about what will happen tomorrow, and stuff like that. And that can then start to erode confidence in the team. It can start to build up technical debt, and the system can start to become fragile, and so on.
Yeah, I think the ability of tech leads to genuinely gauge the situation, um, whether it be a technical decision that they're making, or architectural decisions that have implications on the business, or whether it is simple tech debt that needs to be resolved, and some decisions around that. Uh, I feel like the critical missing piece is usually that people around the tech leads don't feel
Hmm.
confident that the tech leads really understand and are able to take a holistic view of the current situation. And a lot of that is, I think, because they struggle to speak in a language that business and other stakeholders understand.
Hmm.
As a developer, you're deep in technology, and as a tech lead, especially a hands-on tech lead, which is the trend these days, right? Like we've always followed that at our previous organization, ThoughtWorks, for example. But uh, nowadays there are fewer people manager type personas in engineering organizations, and most of the time you have an engineering manager kind of a role, which is supposed to be a hands-on role. So as a tech lead, you're picking up additional leadership responsibilities, but you're still quite close to technology. But the implication of that is that your language remains very technical, and if you continue to converse in that same language, suddenly your stakeholders have changed now and they talk a different language. And if you're not well versed with that way of explaining stuff in the form of money or time or eventual cost, those kind of terms, then it is very difficult to make an argument or to take a decision that gives other people confidence that you've thought of everything and then made that decision. So tech leads struggling to explain the implications in a business language is a very important gap that we've seen, and so that's a symptom that something is missing, and you should pay attention to it, and you should do something about helping your tech leads speak in a business language a lot more. And what happens when and this is not specifically about tech leads, it really, the entire team needs to speak business language, but the tech lead is going to represent the team in a lot of forums that are otherwise not available to the rest of the developers and QAs and BAs on the team. And so they especially need to pay attention to how they articulate the value of anything that they are talking about, any decision that they are looking to take. Because if they don't do that well, then they are very easily seen as a order taking role. So the the trouble is that business strategy happens in a boardroom,
Mm,
and if your technology leaders are not able to speak that language, they rarely get a seat at the table while the decisions are being made. And so inevitably what happens is that the decision gets made by business stakeholders in the boardroom, and then
mm,
technology becomes an order taker to those decisions, right? So, and their job is to execute the strategy rather than help build the strategy, and which is a little bit of a disservice, because today most competitive advantage really comes from technology. And
mm,
so it is ideal that technology plays a role in actually coming up with the strategy and not just executing the strategy. But this is one of the crucial areas that gets missed out. And the easy symptom that you see is that your tech leads are not able to speak language that business stakeholders or non-tech stakeholders are able to understand.
right. And you've touched upon how like this phenomena that business tends to become the decision maker and the thinker in the organization, and tech then gets relegated to an order taker
Right.
role or taking a back seat. That uh, you talked about how that can be seen at the board level in organizations, and while organizations try to solve that by bringing in more experienced leadership, technical leadership right at the top.
Hmm.
So like a very experienced CTO or very experienced engineering head of engineering, and that helps. But the real perception of technology teams capabilities and these interaction patterns arise from what various levels of business leaders experience on a day-to-day basis while talking to their counterparts in technology. So if
Right.
I'm a business sort of product owner, and I'm talking to, I'm responsible for a product, and there's a product team around that product, and I'm talking to them on a daily basis. And if that team and the technical leadership in that team isn't quite there in terms of being able to speak the business language and build alignment on decisions with broad set of stakeholders, then that business product owner is likely to keep sort of feeling like, oh, the tech folks aren't quite there. And then they are going to express that to other people in the business, and other people, if they are also experiencing something in similar in their teams, then they will start to all feel like that.
Right.
And on the other hand, amongst the tech teams, there will be this growing frustration that, oh, business doesn't listen to us and they don't quite understand tech, and they don't, because they feel like they are not heard when they are failing to actually convey the trade-offs in addition. If they feel like they're not getting across, they can start to feel like victims, the tech leaders in various teams, and start to paint business as the villains in their story.
Yeah.
And that just starts to create a divide between business and technology. And even if you have absolutely the right leaders, very capable and very trusting right at the top, in both business and technology, unless leadership at this sort of team level is working well on the tech front. Some of this anti patterns of one business being the in the driver's seat and tech taking the back seat, and like a mistrust between business and technology, all that is likely to be seen.
Right. Yeah, and this is a, I mean, this is extremely common. We have seen this in most organizations, that there's a rift between business and technology. And so it's very likely that you will see this symptom in your organization as well. Uh, and the antidote to that is to really sort of pay attention to the team level tech leadership, as Chirag was saying, not just the top level tech leadership, but the team level tech leadership, because that is the daily interaction that most other stakeholders have with the engineering function. And once that starts working well, then everything else follows from there. Otherwise, however awesome of a CTO you have, it doesn't really matter if my daily interactions are difficult,
Hmm.
and I feel like the tech team doesn't really get what I'm saying. um, the other very again very common symptom that we've seen is over reliance on a few people. There are two or three people on which everything relies. And so in a lot of situations they are not able to disentangle themselves and decentralize decision making, give autonomy to teams. And what that means is that everything rolls up to a decision or an approval by these few people. And that just means that everything is dependent on them. And that might be true in terms of, these are probably individuals who've been there from the beginning, and they have the most context of all the systems, they have the most context of the business. These are probably the people who have learned the hard way to speak the business language, and to really be able to have those conversations. But if that capability is not widespread in the organization, then it falls upon these two or three people to always be present in every conversation that is happening, and drive everything quite hands on. So again, that's a symptom of the team level tech leadership not really being where it should be, so that it can take a bunch of these things upon themselves, and there's some ability to decentralize that decision making, instead of relying on these few individuals at the top.
Yeah, so if you see in the organization, there are a couple of leaders who, whenever they have leave plans, everyone's going nuts. That what will we do while
Or they
that
are answering
person's away,
calls on their vacation, right?
right? So when you see that kind of patterns, then it's something to watch out for. Um, the other thing that's worth noticing is that when technology leaders at the team level aren't quite able to execute their role well, then what tends to happen is that technical debt starts to pile up,
Hmm.
and pile up almost unknowingly, right? Like without people realizing that is happening, and suddenly after 4 months or 5 months, it starts to feel like, oh, a whole lot of tech debt has piled up, and now it feels very hard to address it. So that's another thing to watch for, because then most likely what's happening is that the technical leaders on at that team level isn't quite able to make those trade-offs themselves, or isn't able to talk to the either the other people in the team or the business stakeholders, so to make the right calls
Hmm.
about when to do something the right way and when to do something the quick and dirty way. And if you did something quick and dirty, then when do you come in and fix that and improve that quickly, and so on. So that kind of decision making needs clarity of thinking, needs confidence, in the team, needs confidence among stakeholders, and all that requires the tech lead to have a level of these technical and leadership skills that they're good at.
Yeah, and then one last and really big symptom that we've seen is just inability to start new teams or start new work. And this applies to all kinds of organizations. This is not just services organizations. So services organizations, clearly, when you win new work, you need to start a new team, and you need tech leads to be able to give guidance to that team and make that team sort of self-sufficient. Uh, so it's definitely applicable to services teams, but it's equally applicable to GCCs, for example, right? Again, this is about the headquarters knowing that we need to build all of this stuff that is going to require, three new teams to be kicked off in the GCC. But then that becoming like a conversation about how many months will it take to start that team, because you have to now start figuring out how to staff these teams, like how to move around people inside the organization, or how to hire and figure out a way in which you can start these teams a few months down the line. But that's just a very inefficient way to deal with the demand that is so clear in front of you. uh, and this is not just related to service teams or GCCs. Even for product organizations, it is very important to be able to staff a team and give it a tech mission. You're constantly getting signals from clients and from the market and from your customers, and so sometimes you need to staff a team that just executes this small specific mission. And to be able to staff that team, you need someone who can bring in the tech leadership for that team as well. And so that usually ends up becoming the bottleneck, because of which you cannot staff a new team, or you cannot scale your organization. um, and if your organization is not growing, it is creating problems for everyone inside the organization, because only in a growing organization there are newer opportunities for everyone to move up and step up and pick up new responsibilities and grow in their careers and feel fulfilled. Otherwise, you are in a stagnant organization, and then everyone is doing what they were doing 2 years ago, and that is not a place where many people want to be at. And so then you will see attrition going up and whatnot. So if you really want to hold your people and create an environment that is fulfilling for everyone, then it is inevitable that you grow the organization. But if you want to grow the organization, the bottleneck is likely going to be tech leadership capabilities, and so focusing on that becomes very important.
Right. So we've covered a bunch of symptoms that you should watch out for in your organization. If you're seeing trouble with decision making, if you're seeing rift between business and technology, if you're seeing heavy reliance on a few people, if you see tech debt piling up, and if you're finding it very hard to start new work, chances are that you need to invest more in upskilling and uplifting your technical leadership at the team level. So that's our message for this video. Think about that and also tell us what you feel. What's your experience been? Keen to hear.
Yeah, other symptoms that you've seen, or that you're seeing in your organization right now. And in the next couple of episodes, we're going to talk about some stuff that you can do about this. So how do organizations typically go around fixing this gap, and what are some of the alternatives available for organizations? So see you in the next one. Ciao.
Bye.